Be helping to run our meeting this morning. Jim is absent. Thank you, Michael. Yes, you finally have some worth. We won't put a number on that, though. We have attendance, and I have nothing else to report. We'll run this the same as we've run the previous meetings. You can either wave in the camera or kind of raise your hand or send something through chat if you want to make a comment on something. Anyone with a conflict of interest of anything we're reviewing today? All right, I'm not seeing any, so that is cleared up. Aha, the agenda, good. CORC report. Lou, you did our report last month?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we submitted to the board and there were no questions or comments.
Okay. You'll be capable of doing a report for this month for us?
Yeah, I sent it to Carol Bass and she distributed it to all the board members, so they have it in their package.
Okay. You'll take care of doing one for this meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Staff updates.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry to say Jim is out this week. He's due to a family issue. So we're praying for him and all. I will be doing double duty today. So I will try to be running. I got two different screens on here. One running the presentations and the other trying to keep a track of what's going on. So please bear with me and understand I'm going to try to get through this. I'd like to thank the IT guys. There's a number of them on here that have helped me. I couldn't imagine how much work Jim goes through getting this stuff ready. As a matter of fact, thank you to the CORC members for getting your comments in. You never realized how much work Jim goes through corralling all the questions and making sure all that information gets disseminated out to the right people, gets the comments back, cleans it up, and sends it out. So it's my apology for taking a little bit longer to get that out this week, but it was successful. So again, just that reminder: if I'm messing up or if you're not sure of something, please raise your hand, use the chat. Whatever way we can get our attention. Couple of things. As I'd mentioned previously, we're very excited because we literally have 3 new schools. I know last month I went back through the audio and said we have 2 new schools. In reality, we have 3 new schools that we are opening up this fall. We of course are doing Verde, and I was fortunate enough to go through walk through Verde the other day. It's absolutely incredible. It is truly an incredible feat to get that project done in basically around 12 months, from demo to full new construction in 12 months for a K-8 school. The other one, of course, is adult ed that we had talked about. That's another great feat. And for those of you who know the old adult ed facility, that's a massive parking lot now. So it's a whole lot better for all the customers, all the folks that go to school there. And then the last one, which I neglected to mention last month, was the South Tech at Odyssey. South Tech is moving out of their old campus, and they are moving into the Odyssey Middle School buildings. And we built them a garage bay building for their automotive programs. And that entire project, just like the Verde project, was started last May or June, and is now up and running. Both Verde and South Tech, the teachers are back, loading up their classrooms. A lot of the equipment is back, and furniture and whatnot. The adult ed has been sitting ready right now. I'll get into that in a little while, but it's a feat. They've done a nice job on all 3 of those. One of the other, besides the many other projects we're working on, I wanted to let you know that the construction department, the construction department is working with the county you may have heard about it, that county Wi-Fi. They're trying to make sure there's Wi-Fi coverage all across the county. And the county is the one who's actually using CARES dollars to take care of that. But we are helping them because they are trying to mount the wireless devices to throw the broadband service out at about 70 of our schools. And we're very proud that the construction department is helping, working with them, making sure they're getting permits, we're getting electric to the site so that they can bring their fiber optic on board. And we are very proud to play a part and make sure that we can get Wi-Fi out to everyone. So that's a great piece for us. The last item I have is simply what I can say is I don't know anything about virtual meetings going forward. We were fortunate enough that at the end of July, the governor was able to extend his order till the end of August. So we were able to hold this meeting today virtually, and we'll make it known. We hope that that comes through, but we'll just have to play it by ear. As we mentioned last month, it's a bit of a challenge if it is expected that we come back next month for a in-person meeting. So that's all I have for now. David?
Yeah, Dave, a question for, at least for me, and anybody else can chime in a minute. The former adult ed location on Military, what is the plan for that site and schedule?
Well, the plan is it's still up in the air. We're actually going to hold on to the building. We're going to hold on to it for a little while longer. We had initially thought we might go in and just demo it right away, but the administration, we've made the decision that we're going to hold on to the building for a little while longer, try to keep it afloat, if you will, try to keep it operable in case there are any needs for it. But as you're probably familiar, the building is in pretty bad shape. It needs a lot of work. If we were to bring students or other administrative offices there, it would take a bit of work just to get it occupiable at this point. So
the ultimate plan is demo, flatten the site, and put it on the market, or hold on to the land for land banking. We don't know yet.
Don't know. Well, I would bet probably one of those two sounds pretty reasonable, but I don't know which one. And for the time being, we're going to hold on to it in its current format.
Okay. Any consideration to either our police department or the county or both using it as kind of a active shooter training site?
I can't speak to that. I don't have any idea of any school police purpose or any other purpose. I know it has been done in the past on other facilities. We set working agreements with those groups, but in all honesty, I just don't know. I've not heard of any projected plan to use it that way.
Has our police department been notified that it's available if they want it?
They do know that.
Oh,
they are familiar with it. As a matter of fact, they have to do security on it. They still, even though it's a piece of property that we own and maybe nobody's going to be there, it's still vandal worthy. We still have to have school police keeping track of it. So yes, they are very much aware of the facility, and the chief operating officer and the chief of police are both in the loop on that vacant facility.
Okay. Anyone else with questions for Dave on staff updates? Okay. We're not doing public comments, so we will now hit the consent agenda. And unmute your mic if you want to tell me to pull something or wave at me or something. BCS1.
Yeah, I'd like to put it.
Okay. Lou pulls it. FC1. I wanted to pull that. FC2. PC1. PC2, PC3, PC4. Michael wants PC1, okay?
Okay.
I think I left off with PC4. Anyone with PC4? PC5? And PC6. Okay, we'll assume that all of the ones that didn't get pulled are accepted. Anyone have any objections to that? Chat in or unmute your mic and tell me. Okay, we will start off with BCS1. Lou, you had pulled that.
Let's first an introductory comment. I was thrilled with the way Jim had answered all the questions that I had in his responses, and that's why I had, for one, didn't pull any of the items. He did an excellent job of responding. My comment on BCS1, I recognize it's a report, an annual report, and its statistics and the content is what it is and what was reported. My problem is when I go through the content of the report, there are things on there that should not be on there. For example, I don't understand why there's 6 heaters that have to be removed from a school. What in the world were the heaters doing there other than the air conditioning system was too cold? There's a lot of questions, and I don't know who's looking at the content of the report and doing follow-up actions. Some of the items go back 2 years, and some of them aren't going to be fixed for 2 or 3 more years. So while the content is the content, I'm not sure who's looking at the details and doing a follow-up. I recognize there's over 400 pages for each facility, but it isn't clear we're just getting a bunch of data thrown at us and whether there's an adequate follow-up on the details of the content.
Well, I'm gonna actually let Tom respond to it, but just before he digs in, please understand that this is a state report with state guidelines as to how that report is supposed to be developed and presented. So it may not necessarily be in the best format that we would like or that we could see benefiting the individual schools. So its format is kind of fixed. But Tom, why don't you?
Well, let me make a comment first. I've been looking at this report for 15 years, and I know what the content is. I'm not happy with the progress we're doing in resolving the issue. Some schools are perfect, and they're older schools, and some brand new schools are a disgrace, like the maintenance people are leaving chairs in aisles, blocking doorways, and stuff like that should just not be happening at this day and age. They're safety hazards. So different schools react differently, and I don't know the role of the superintendent, the principals of the schools, or the maintenance people, but it looks like there's a breakdown in internal communications. So I'm not arguing about the report. I'm arguing about our response to the data that's there.
Okay. I understand what you're asking. I'm sorry, Lou. It sounds like your mic is a little bit muffled. So for those of you, hopefully mine isn't muffled. Lou is concerned about the report, not so much the information, but more how it is being addressed. It sounds like some of the items that he's making reference to should not be on there. He's arguing they should not be on there because they should be addressed immediately. They're ones that are just seem kind of odd, and I understand and appreciate that. If I can I let Tom kind of give some feedback into that?
First, every time I see gasoline and propane storage as a safety hazard, I get upset. It should never happen in our schools. And propane is there twice. Gasoline is probably in there 4 or 5 times. And I don't care if it's used for golf carts or it's stored by the baseball fields. It should not be a safety hazard. That has to be called out on the report.
Okay. For those of you that he was referring to, the gasoline and propane sometimes show up as a violation in schools. And Lou acknowledges that's unacceptable at any time. So, Tom?
Yeah, the only thing I can add, well, first I'll revisit the space heaters. That's the continuing problem, and it's kind of reflective of this year. We saw the operational citations go up markedly, and I think that's a direct relation to the COVID shutdown. But that kind of points out that they don't fix stuff until we go back the second time to re-inspect. So usually we were re-inspecting in the second half of the year, so a lot of these schools didn't get or didn't take the opportunity to fix things before the shutdown. We agree with Mr. Doctor about the continuing problem, and we look for any opportunities from the regional superintendents and the board to exert pressure on the schools to try to improve compliance.
Yeah, this is David. Maybe that pressure needs to be amped up on the principals. I mean, the principals, the chief commander at the school, when doors are blocking, when chairs are blocking doorways or something, and that becomes a citation. It's like, man, principal, get out of your office and walk to school, and this stuff should not be happening.
We appreciate that, and Tom, this is an ever-running conversation. I think we actually had this conversation 2 years ago, and the board felt the same way. We've had feedback from the IG, which has stepped up the notification of the regional superintendents of these situations. And again, please, I kind of want to stress that what Mr. Doctor was alluding to is there might be a handful of schools that have an excessive number of violations. This is not a systemic problem across all schools. Many of the schools have very few. Some of the citations that you see are not ones that were from last year. They may have the same number as last year, but they're not necessarily always the same. So it varies from school to school. And by and large, I don't want to go out too far on a limb, but say most of the schools are very good at compliance. And I do recognize the importance of these safety and security issues. But I think one of the points that Tom had tried to make in his write-up, the written response, was that critical safety items, the concept of serious, isn't what you and I would consider serious. You and I consider serious as life-threatening and it needs to be taken care of right away. That's not the way the report is written up. Those items that are truly what we would consider serious, immediately life-threatening, are immediately addressed. Schools are shut down, areas are shut down to ensure the safety of the kids. Some of the items that are on there are not necessarily a maintenance, because I want to stress that maintenance and capital work on these things all year long. And I can show you all the documented proof that both the maintenance teams and the capital teams are working on their projects. Now, capital has a little bit of a challenge because our funding is a little bit slower. A lot of the citations that you'll notice are in fact operational, and there's a little bit of a challenge on all these, because sometimes the operationals are there and it becomes apparent that they need to be moved. They need funding, so they need to be moved to a maintenance citation or a capital citation. So it's an ever-moving process. It's not like a fixed situation where these 6 schools are always the worst schools. I think we try to stay on top of these guys, and we know that the regional superintendents are made aware of all these problems, and they know which ones are the high violation ones, as Mr. Doctor has alluded to.
Are the problems recurring with, let's say, the same regional superintendents year after year?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they span all 4 regions.
They are doing something about it then. It's not like they're just ignoring it and it lingers from year to year.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Michael Gelfand, you had wanted to make a comment.
Yes. First, what is the difference between capital and maintenance. What is the drawing line or distinction?
Capital is usually something that requires a replacement of a part, as opposed to maintenance might be a repair of a part. It's a gray line in some cases. So it's usually the larger, more complicated projects would go to capital. Sometimes we write it initially as a maintenance and it gets turned into a capital when it's further researched.
Is that
let's say, as an example, if you had an egress door and the door was falling off the hinges, it was totally rusted out, and now you need to basically put an entire new door and frame in, as opposed to just repairing the lock set.
Correct.
Or the hinges, yeah.
Okay. Michael, anything else?
Yeah. So, not to beat a dead horse, but I am still very concerned about the issues that Lou raised on this. In the facilities that my clients administer, the presence of propane and gasoline and the locking of exit doors, there were a number of issues in here where there were locks on bang doors. That comes to an immediate issue, and we've got some schools where this happened a couple of times. And I appreciate that the report overall for the number of facilities that you have, we have a relatively low number of items. But for those two particular items, I would like to hear specifically from the principals why it occurred and why it was not fixed immediately. I mean, if this was a building that you owned and you had hired a manager, you would expect nothing less. And I understand the filtering through all the different areas, but the buck has to stop somewhere. And to the extent these schools are going to be occupied for whatever reason, we need to know what's going on there. It's unacceptable.
Well, Tom, as far as the items that Mr. Gelfand has mentioned, I don't know how the frequency on the report that those items have occurred. Can you speak to how they're addressed? Like as Mr. Gelfand mentions, the lock. Would that be something that, while it ends up on the report, it's your inspectors telling the principal right then and there, cut the garbage, take that stupid lock off, end this thing. But it still ends on the report, or?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's different this year. Previous years, we would have the ability to go back and really say, I'm not going to close this report out until you remove this lock. And this COVID shutdown actually affected our ability to go back and do that. Just everything was just a big, complicated confusion, from March on. But that's not to let them off the hook that why was it locked in the first place. That's really where we need to get to say, just because we're telling you to fix it now doesn't get you off the hook of why it shouldn't have been locked in the first place. And they might put the lock on the day we leave. That's, we're only there 1 or 2 days a year. And so it's a training process that we need to get. And I agree with David. It's a very small group of principals that, feel that they needed to have that door locked for whatever reason. We just need to train them otherwise.
We will do so with school police, because as Tom's alluding to, he's talking about fire and safety. If the principal's arguing on a chain door or a locked door, that it's about keeping the bad kids out and that kind of thing. Well, then we will work with school police on that. That's an issue that can be addressed through safety and monitoring, and not a lock.
It's sounding to me that it's obviously not Tom's office, and it's not necessarily maintenance. It's coming down to the principal and the area superintendent that seems to be either blind to these situations, not considering them as safety conscious as we are. And it sounds like it's an administrative thing that's, even from Dr. Fenoy down, the thumb's got to be squeezed here to say, no, you want to keep your job past tomorrow. This stuff ain't going to happen.
I'm looking at, for example, Atlantic. There are two separate instances of gasoline items inside, and if it's one-off, it's one-off, but it's not. The same thing with Forest Hill. There's two. I just don't understand, A, why it occurs, and B, why it isn't fixed immediately by the school on that. And with the HASPs, if there's a security problem, have the school police been brought in to provide a security fix and deal with it, as opposed to these end runs, which create significant safety problems?
Tom?
I don't know if that was a question. I don't think school police and us are ever at odds with each other. I think if there's ever any confusion, the fire safety is always they've always supported us on fire safety concerns. So that's typically a matter with the principal just not being able to understand our concerns or not accepting our concerns. And like I said, it's just a small number that we have, and it's a constant battle to coach them up and work toward compliance.
Tom, with the hazardous materials storage cabinets, isn't that usually just a function of them purchasing one to remedy some of those situations with the exposed gas?
Right, and some of our FCA projects, we're adding flammable storage buildings as part of the scope to try to correct it. That's an example where it went from probably started off as a maintenance citation, went to capital turned it into an FCA project, and it's being addressed that way.
So there are solutions to it. It's not just move it outside. It's move it to a storage container, a certified hazardous materials storage container that in some cases maybe the school can't afford or won't, at which time we try to see if we can help out.
Dave, maybe it's a follow-up that
it certainly is.
We get some feedback that you can obtain, figuring out what happens after this report is done in terms of the administrative level. So if there's six principals out there that are the culprits, what's happening with those six principals, and why is this continuing to happen if they feel that they're kind of renegades and don't have to do what they're supposed to do? Maybe we need a letter or something that comes down from Dr. Fenoy saying, look, here's our procedures and here's what we're doing, and we do take these things seriously, and here's the reprimands that we're going to cause to these principals. Because it seems like you guys do the report, you can take care of maintenance, you can take care of capital, but you don't have any control over operational. Operational is the principal and the area superintendent and the teachers. And their bad stuff only gets caught once a year when you go do the report inspection.
Right. All right. Well, I will. I understand the concern, and I will follow back up with you to let you know. We're going to meet with the regionals and kind of talk through this, because Tom does have a process in place that was established a couple of years ago on writing up notifications to principals that go to the regional superintendents about their continued violations. We'll do a follow-up on that if it's okay.
Yeah, and I guess any type of re-inspection right now wouldn't be worth it because nobody's been in the schools to take care of it, even if it is an operational thing.
We even had challenges with our maintenance. We say, maintenance and capital, we're always staying on top of it. Well, maintenance had a similar problem at the end of the year, so they were scrambling to get a lot of that work done, because when we got shut down, it hampered them as well. So it's not a fair excuse, but it is an excuse nonetheless that we were limited.
Michael, you had a comment, and Frank?
So when you come on back with the response, what I'd like to know is at these schools, who is actually responsible for this, and a response back from whoever is responsible on site as to A, why it occurred and what they're going to do to cure it in the future.
David,
Yeah, Frank, go ahead.
let's all keep in mind what happened in Beirut when they ignored things like this for year after year. And we know what happened. The problem is that I think we have some legitimate concerns which the school board should be aware of, but you probably do not want to bring it up at a public meeting. So you have to find out how you can make this clear to the school board and have them come down on the superintendent, but do it in a way that won't make it a public kind of thing, but does emphasize how important it is and how dangerous these things are. Even if you have a cabinet, I wouldn't want it inside the building which is occupied. So that you have to do, but as Michael says and others, some of these things should be the next day. As far as I'm concerned, the police should have a bolt cutter. And if there's a lock on a door that shouldn't be locked, cut it when they see it. Don't even wait, because safety comes first. Thank you.
If I may, Frank, I appreciate your comments. I also understand some of the security issues that occur in schools. And if there is a security need, then that would justify in a principal's mind bolting a door. Then they need to, at that point, figure out how to do it right rather than this turnaround. So I'm not saying open up the doors and letting everything in, but figure out what the solution is. And that should be able to be done within a very short period of time. You've got bright people there first. Second, I would say that if folks don't want this discussed at a public meeting, then they need to tell whoever's in charge on site not to have this occur, period. Because the whole purpose of what we are is for public oversight. And I'm not going to be someone that sloughs it under the rug, if you would.
Mr.
Understood.
Chairman?
Ms. Barberi.
Yes, I've been listening to all the comments. I usually get on this when I see this happen. I'm not afraid to bring it up publicly. I've done it before. The district knows that, and I will do it next Wednesday. I'll bring your concerns to the attention of the full board next Wednesday. Wednesday, I meet with the superintendent and the chief operating officer, so I will talk to both of them in advance of that and make them aware of the problems.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on BCS1?
Yeah, I had a comment, Dave.
Yes.
Along the same venture, they ought to look into why there are red tags on the fire sprinkler systems, and some of them are repeat violations, and what that means.
Tom, do you got an answer for that?
Yeah, a red tag probably means that it's either an inspection out of date or it's a minor repair. If the system was not operating, we would react to that. There's no yellow tag. It's either green or red. So any small problem with the system gets a red tag, but you have to read the actual report for that particular school to see what the issue is, and our inspectors do that.
They're generally more than a year old when you see them in the report. It's 3 or 4 times that it's happened. That's all.
Yeah, but I think what Tom's saying, Lou, is that you have to dig down through the details of the report, even though they're recurring. I mean, I'm assuming, Tom, it could even be a single sprinkler head that's, bent over sideways or something, and the head needs to be replaced.
Right. It could be a rusted head or something like that. And as long as we believe it's operational, we're not going to raise a bigger alarm than what we'd have. That's a maintenance issue that they're usually pretty good on staying in front of that.
Yes and no, I guess, because if what Lou is saying is that some of them have been on there for a couple of years, to me, that's not being right on top of that. Anyway. All right. Anything else on this one? Okay. We're going to assume this one then is accepted. Any objections? Either chat in or open up or raise your hand, and I'm not seeing any. Okay. I had pulled FC1, and Dave, if you can go to your answers that you had sent out, that's what my comment's about.
Okay.
And go down to, let's see, 3G. Keep going, there you go. 3G, is that the one? It's on construction manager. This is for Plamosa. I'm talking about your answers.
On 3G. Okay, sorry. There we go.
3G.
There we go.
There we go. I still have a big issue with us buying contractors' laptops. And I think across the board, we need to remove that from anything we do for them, even if we're allowed to get them back at the end. I look at it as a laptop like a shovel. It's a tool to do business. I'd love for you to buy me a new laptop every time I'm designing one of your buildings. It's part of doing business. And if we're going to get them back, they could be half trashed by the time we get them back because we're not controlling the use of those laptops. Let the contractor provide their own laptops. Any of their own computer equipment. To me, it's a tool. We don't provide them hammers. We don't provide them jackhammers. We don't give them new pickup trucks to get to the job. They're tools of doing business.
Understood.
That's the only comment I had on that, and I'd really like to follow up on that to know that you're going to remove that, if that's in agreement with staff, that's coming out of our future contracts.
I don't have any problems with it. It'll come out. It'll still remain in the contract. We will see it. It'll be in something else. It'll be in some sort of general conditions or general requirements amount that we just don't see, and we'll never get the laptop back. They're still going to do that. It's done basically virtually every CM contractor ever. It's they rent them. They'll charge us a rental for it, and we won't see it that way either. So, but we could certainly do so. We'll put it in there that they are responsible for buying all their equipment, and we'll make it clear to them that we don't want it back, and that's their problem, their purchase. I think we'll see it we'll see the charge in some other form.
Well, there's always going to be the stuff that they buy as the cost of doing business. Fresh bottled water on the job for their workers. They want to go buy lunch on Friday for the crews that are out there. That's just the normal cost of doing business. Yes, that's going to appear in your overhead charge. The cost of computers and monitors and printing paper. That's all going to be part of an overhead charge. I just think we don't want to see it separately. If they break a saw blade, they're going to buy a new saw blade. Hopefully we're not getting down to the weeds that we're seeing charges and line item bills for saw blades.
Ultimately, when we're getting these back, you're right. I understand and agree that when we get these back, these aren't of very much use because let's face it, if we're buying laptops and software and things like that, they've got a life cycle. There's a shelf life to them, and when we're getting them back a year and a half later, they're probably nearing the end of their shelf life anyway. So it's whether I'm paying for it in a rental fee or paying for them to buy it or whatever. It's to appreciate and understand that it's their operational costs. And we will. Please understand. I'm not arguing against it. I made notes that we're going to look into having it removed if it's worthy of having it removed.
Okay. Anybody else with anything on FC1? And I'm not seeing any mics on or anybody chatting in, so I'm going to assume that since I was the only one that pulled FC1, that one is acceptable. We're down to PC1, and Michael, you had pulled PC1.
Yeah, I had noticed, are we having a problem in obtaining, let me see what page the graph that I was looking at on, I just can't find it now, but the chart, and I find it, by the way, very helpful, identify each of the prospects and then, I'm sorry, here it is, it's on page 4 of 22. we seem to be losing the game in having MWBE and SBE qualified folks. So is there something happening there, or is this a special group, a larger group, or what's going on?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite following. My apologies. Maybe I misunderstood.
I'm not either.
So the MWBE and SBE columns indicate that we are not getting folks that are qualified in those areas, bidders. So is there a reason why it seems that we're having a drop off in those that qualify in those areas?
No. Well, these, if we're talking about the renewals for pre-qualifications,
Yeah.
I mean, there's only a small percentage of the companies that do business with the school district as a whole that qualify as minorities or small business, women-owned businesses. This is just a tracking tool because there are benefits when they bid if they are in fact a minority or small business. So I don't think this is representative of any sort of drop off in the number of small business or minority businesses or women businesses that we're engaging. In fact, I mean, I don't want to blow sunshine, but I'm super excited and proud to have Dickie as one of my Dickie Sykes with the Office of Diversity and Small Business. She's done an incredible job of engaging and getting a lot more vendors, a lot more small businesses involved. Now, I don't want to speak too far out of turn, but the minority woman business generally isn't used quite as much in the construction end, but I think we track it. I don't know if Dickie is on this call, if she can speak to that, but I think we just generally keep a track of the MWBEs that are in here. But we are very, very cognizant of the small business companies, and we use a lot of them. As a matter of fact, many of our term contracts, I think our small $2 million or under CM contract, we have 6 vendors that are on there, that stay through. 4 of the 6 are small businesses.
All right, excellent, good, thank you.
Yes, hopefully we're continuing to expand on that and continue to bring more opportunities to small businesses.
Michael, okay?
Yeah, those are my comments. Thank you. Appreciate the comments back, Dave. Thank you.
All right. Assume that PC1 then is accepted. Michael had been the only one to pull it, and so those comments are resolved, so we will move forward. That is the end of consent. Let's go back to the main agenda. In progress work, Dave.
Okay. Now, I know you all told me how to do this, how I'm supposed to do this, and I'm not very good at this. So forgive me. I'm trying to do this on a laptop that I'm not quite as familiar with. This is our monthly report. It looks like most of the other ones, and it is posted. So if I zip through a lot of these, please forgive me. It doesn't mean I'm trying to diminish them. I just know you may well choose to review this on your own. And if you have any comments or questions on it after the fact, please follow up with me. All right, this is our monthly report of how much, how the sales tax revenues are coming, and that we are $203 million expended through July. You'll see our participation for diversity participants is still pretty high, both on the designer side and on the contractor side. Okay, this is one of the things we've been working on recently. This slide has actually been translated to the district purchasing website, because right up until recently, the purchasing website strictly identified with very specific dates what the upcoming projects were, meaning like within the next 2 to 4 weeks, what days were projects going to be advertised. And This list that I have on the screen are the projects that are coming up over the next, say, 4 months that we're advertising for architects and for CM contractors. So you'll notice the Orchard View, Eagles Landing, Malaluca, Dwyer, and Santa Lucius. Those are all facility renewals. Oh, sorry, not Malaluca, Murakami. Those are facility renewals that are going to be, those are the next summer facility renewals. We're going to hire the architects now, get the designs done, and hopefully have GMPs so that next summer they can start working on those schools. Malaluca is a modernization that's coming up after Grove Park. Grove Park is currently going through the selection process now, or signing up. The transportation facilities are up next. And I'll come to that, John, in a second. Roosevelt Full Service is also expected in October. And Seminole Trails, I think Seminole Trails is the core expansion one that we will be coming forward with. So we've still got a bunch of projects coming up over the next several months. And John, I think your question was, forgive me, on upcoming solicitations page, could you add the dollar estimate? And absolutely. In fact, the sheet that I'm referring to, and I have files on 2 different computers. The sheet that I'm referring to actually does have the approximate month we are advertising, as well the anticipated dollar value of the cost of construction. So going forward, instead of having this slide, and we only figured this out this week, but going forward, instead of this slide, we will update and include both of those, the dates that we anticipate them coming out, as well as dollar values. Okay, upcoming GMPs. Well, right now you've got the Plumosa GMP we just approved for phase 1. As you saw in my write-up, the phase 1 is in advance of the phase 2 GMP, which will be coming next month, which is the rest of the GMP. We just wanted to get out in front of it as quickly as possible so that we can ensure that we get the school built and open by next August. Again, another one of these where we're building a 6 to 8 addition at Plumosa School of the Arts, and we want to make sure that we've got the whole construction done, moved in, and everything. So we wanted to get the phase 1 going, and the phase 2 is basically right behind it. We pretty much know we're on budget, as Mr. Porter has asked. We are on or under budget, as we see from the CM contractor right now. Next month, we'll also be bringing Jupiter and Pahokee L. Those are facility renewals. And in October, we are going to be bringing North Great and South Olive. Development activities. Again, kind of went through a lot of these. The modernization, Malaluca, Grove Park. Some of you sat through the selection committees, and I thank you very much for that. That we've picked both an architect and a CM contractor. And I think we have a good team for that one. The facility renewals, the transportation projects are all coming out very shortly. Malaluca will be advertising in another month as well. Design activities. The core expansion for Citrus Cove is well underway. And I kind of see the reason I know on a 20,000 foot level what's going on most of these projects, because I go and sit in on their design meetings or OAC meetings and just generally try to stay quiet. So I'm kind of picking up on where they stand on some of these projects. The Delray Full Service Center is well underway. We're into the DD stage on that one. Plumosa School of the Arts, of course, we're done, and we're doing the phase 1 right now. So we hope to start construction very shortly after next Wednesday's board approval, if that goes forward. 05C, the new elementary school in Boca, is just started the design process. We've been real fortunate. We've been working with the city, and it looks like we've got a boundary established between us and the city that is going to be acceptable for us to build the new school, the new elementary school there. And we're real excited about that. Ziskovich is working on that with us. The O High School is well underway. It's almost done. We're going to start construction next year. The Boynton Beach Middle School, 17 PP. We just started the design, and in fact, we are working with the county on that to try to plan with them. They are doing that, the Canyons District Park right next to it, and we're trying to do shared use facilities, some of their sports facilities for us, and potentially some of our sports facilities for them. Trying to do save money on both sides. They buy their features, we buy our features, and we can share instead of having to spend double the money. Okay, as you know, ongoing facility renewal projects. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take a pause. Does anybody have any questions on those so far?
Dave, yeah, I had a couple questions. One, clarification with the Grove Park. Architect has been selected, contractor's just been shortlisted, not selected.
Sorry, you're right. My apologies.
Right. Jupiter Elementary, back up one more slide. There we go. I thought we did something major at Jupiter Elementary, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago. And I know the auditorium became real controversial because the community was supposed to raise the money to refurbish the auditorium. And we went in and I think did new air conditioning when we did that previous renovation. And the auditorium had to stay air conditioned to keep it from becoming a mold spore.
Yep.
And yet we were complaining that we were spending money on air conditioning for a space that the community never raised the funds for. So it's still a shuttered room. So what is proposed for Jupiter Elementary, and is there anything further that's going to happen with the historic auditorium?
Well, I can't speak to the Jupiter Auditorium. It had a little momentum. I know we talked about it probably almost a year ago, but there was some momentum in the community. The neighboring theater group was interested in potentially working on refurbishing the auditorium and using it while they renovated their theaters. But it kind of seemed to fall off the wayside. I think the community money to develop it has not shown up. Also, now that the COVID pandemic has slowed up everything, I don't think there's any plan right now for anything on that. But we do have air conditioning on there in that space. It is a reasonably conditioned space. It's not in bad shape. It's not developed at all. It definitely needs work if it were to be reused. But there is no intention for the school district at this point to do anything with that. And we're still going to wait on see where the community goes with this. As far as that particular project, that is a facility renewal project. That is simply the fact that the school itself got an addition, as you said, 8 or 9 years ago, and some work done on the school. But this is just like every other facility renewal. Some air handlers need to be replaced, fire alarm needs to be upgraded, panel, things like that. This is still a school that needed plenty of work. It was one of the more in need schools.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else with questions up until this point? Michael.
So I still don't understand what the game plan is for the auditorium, especially since the town of Jupiter has decided to proceed with community and recreational facilities, and they're building a whole new center. They may actually be done with it by now. So the town has made a deliberate decision not to use this facility. So why are we keeping it if it's just costing us money and it's not usable for our purposes? If the town wants it, shouldn't they be paying for it?
Well, the town has committed a very small amount of money, but some amount of money. Nothing that will help to renovate it, but we're always open to the opportunities. We, the school district, don't have a functional need for the space at this time. And I don't want to say that there are no costs to it. The air conditioning that is blowing in there is also serving the second floor of the rest of the building. So it is a minimal cost to continue to maintain that. Basically, that room is locked off. No one is allowed to go in there. It's not like it's used for anything else. So our costs to operate it are minimal. We don't have an academic function for it right now.
So this is not just a standalone building. It has other rooms on the second floor that are being used?
Correct.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, continue.
Okay. Okay, on our facility renewals, as I mentioned several times before, we are finishing up our summer construction work, which is basically the crazy busy, go at all costs type of projects where we take out entire air conditioning systems and entire fire alarm systems and fire sprinkler systems and work through. So we were fortunate to have extra time. We are anticipating by the end of this week, by tomorrow, we will be complete. We had to struggle because teachers, somewhat to our surprise, were required to come back yesterday and today. So that put a little bit of a hamper on our ability to work straight through hard and get done by Friday the 14th. So we had to juggle a bunch of things. So we might be working through the weekend. We were trying to stay out of the way of a lot of the teachers that were coming back for administrative purposes. But the schools were good and open and ready for them when they came back yesterday. And now, as I mentioned here, we are going to our school year model, which involves intermittent work, working in open classrooms or open areas, nights and weekends, working over breaks. So we get a little bit less done, but we still continue to work. They're still working nights and weekends and pushing these projects forward. So I'm not going to go into too many of these, but you can see the status of some of our facility renewal projects that are underway: Acreage Pines, Colusa, and Loxahatchee Groves, Forest Hill L, Woodlands, and Wellington Elementary. Again, I want to give a special shout out on Wellington Elementary. We got a late start on Wellington Elementary, and the contractor, I've got reports today from our SPA on this project. The contractor has done an incredible job to work through a lot of the pods and got a lot of work done. This is a company that literally worked 7 days a week from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. Virtually the whole time since they got started. And they've knocked out a lot of the work, which is, as you can imagine, quite an improvement and an appreciation from the school. So, Okie-Healy Middle, Coniston Middle, these are both coming down near the end. Western Pines, that's just underway. Some of the photos from Acreage Pines and Colusa. These are, and trust me, I actually had to go back through this. These are different photos than from last month. We're not rerunning the same photos. Roofing at Forest Hill, paving at Loxahatchee Groves, and you'll see the man up on the crane at Woodlands doing exterior waterproofing. Wellington Elementary, there's some of the flooring. Coniston and Okie-Healy, some technical work. And milling and paving out at Western Pines. Okay, before I move on to the new construction, any questions on the facility renewals? Okay. As I mentioned earlier in my comments, Verdi K8 is very much done. The only thing we're working on is Building 4, which is a covered play area out in the back. It's going through final inspections right now. But otherwise, the school is moved in, furniture. The school looks absolutely incredible. Very, very happy with it. We've done some amenities to improve the masking of the chillers, so the noise emissions from the chillers. And that work has just been completed this week. But some of it was done last week or 2 weeks ago. Just got finished this week. and it's made a dramatic difference in the sound output, which is good for the neighborhood.
Dave, with that, is that something that we should be incorporating into our future specs for chiller yards?
Depending on the proximity to the closeness to the neighbors, it certainly would be something we would consider.
Well, then I think we should be adjusting our master spec to provide the designers with a guideline to say, if you're within X feet of a property line surrounding this building or this property, that you will use the sound attenuation detailing the district specifies. And that way it's not up to the engineer and it's not up to the residents. And it's like, no, here's our policy. This is our spec. You're within 100 feet. You're doing this.
Sure. And there are other conditions. I'm sure, if the distance spans a high traffic volume road where the noise emission is already high, that might not necessarily warrant that. But certainly, I'll take that under advisement. We'll try to work with Tom and the building code services to see if we can try to come up with some sort of standard. Because I appreciate your point, and Addison Meisner might be another one where we look at it and say, well, we're pretty tight. We're pretty close to some of the neighbors. Let's see if our distance warrants the need to do so. Appreciate that feedback.
I was on recent selection committee, and one of the architects presented in the finals, the final three firms, moving the school to the complete opposite side of the site where it was located, which would put it right up against residences that haven't seen a building there in over 50 years when the school was built. And that was where the chiller was going to go. And I said, no, I don't think so.
Right. Not well received.
No. So it's just like, okay, we have to control that destiny, or you will be the one with all the residents knocking on your office door.
Yeah, absolutely. While we were going through this, I just got a note that Verde Building 4 did get TCO this week.
Talk about a
You have
live
to understand,
update.
we put these things together over the course of several days, and things change, obviously, on a daily basis. So some of these pieces of information are being adjusted on the fly. There's another one that I have coming up that I also got. So here's some of the photos of how it looks right now. I think the last time you hadn't seen a lot of grass on this site, but it is very well complete.
Moss was the contractor here, right?
They were.
I mean, they need to be commended, because to build this type of a complex within 12 months is pretty phenomenal.
Yes. If you only knew the challenges that they experienced on this, sometime I'll let Glenn Armbruster, who's the SPA on this, give a quick walkthrough, or maybe I'll let him do a video or something like that on this, and see all the efforts that went into this. It is quite an impressive feat. It's really a nice facility. It's got a nice courtyard in the center of it. There you can see some of the courtyard looking like it just got rained on. But the amenities in the facility are top notch. And it's important to understand, we spent wisely on this project. You'll see, I mean, that's a beautiful classroom. That hallway is really impressive looking, but we stayed within cost per student station budgets. So, staying with the state's expectation, we're not flaunting anything. We're staying within the guidelines. We're not trying to go out and build something extravagant, but we're still spending the money the right way and getting good quality facilities for our kids.
Do any of our rebuilds, do they all get the white smart boards that we've been doing in portable version for the most of the classrooms?
Yes. That's part of the program on all the news, the modernization. And I think all the elementaries have already gotten the portable, the on wheels ones, and they're now rolling out to middle and high now. But I think just about every elementary school has already gotten them in every classroom.
Good. When we build a new project like Verde, do we build in the whiteboards, or are they still considered portable?
No, I think that the whiteboards in here are built in. We're wall mounted. They're
Okay.
wall mounted.
Okay.
Some of the classrooms, and I'm trying to watch out for texts here. I'm sure Glenn's going to catch me, but some of the classrooms that we put together, and I know this on Washington as well when it comes forward, we'll mount one of them on the wall, and we'll leave another portable, because on the elementary schools they use them in different formats. The academic purposes vary, and so one of them can be used on wheels to work with a small group of kids in a certain area of the classroom, while the other one is the main teaching one. So they do a bit of both. Verde gets both, mounted and portable.
Okay. So we're providing 2 per classroom for elementary schools, not just 1.
That's my understanding. The ones that I've been through some of the presentations on some of the other schools, and Washington, for example, I distinctly remember we even went and showed the community these smart boards and showed them the classroom with that one mounted in the front and the one portable in the back for that purpose. So,
okay. The where we've been bringing the smart boards in as an after retrofit after the fact in existing buildings, we're then just bringing one in that's portable, correct?
That's my understanding. Every classroom is getting at least one.
Right. Okay.
Our new projects our new standard would be for the 2. So.
Okay.
Okay, next one, South Tech at Odyssey. The existing Odyssey campus was always safe to occupy. We never lost our TCO status. We did a lot of facility renewal work in those 5 buildings to get them to serve the needs of the South Tech school that's coming into it. So we're basically finishing that out. South Tech has already moved in virtually all of their furniture and equipment from the old school into this school. As you know, we also built that new addition building, the garage bays, for their technical piece. And short of a water meter, which is set to be done this week, that will get these TCO for Building 6 for that portion of the project. It's again another one. The South Tech is operating on the same academic schedule as our school district. So they're starting August 29th, and I think they're starting virtual as well. So we are.
Dave, August 31st.
Did I say the 29th? I apologize. Yes, August 31st. Sorry.
So South Tech is a conversion charter, isn't it?
It is.
And that means that the district pays for all construction as if it was a regular full public school?
On this one, yes.
Okay.
I want it.
So they don't have to pay any of it back in terms of being a quasi-charter school?
No, they do not.
Okay.
Okay. So this is this photo that you see right here is that's the main 5 buildings right in there. This building all the way up on the end here, that's the new garage bay building. That whole parking lot there and the garage bay building was constructed over the last 12 months. They started last June and they're done. There's
Dave, I want to congratulate, this is Wanda Paul, I want to congratulate the team on this because this was a pretty tight timeline. And we weren't sure if we were able to get the bays done in time. And so I think y'all did an amazing job in getting this ready for school. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you. You'll see that top photo on the top left is the equipment for the garage bays. And the other 2 photos are just photos of basically showing that the classrooms are back up to a good, clean finish.
Are they taking appointments for oil changes yet?
I can't speak to that. Unfortunately, I don't know the operations. I do know that they will be doing haircuts as well. They do have a cosmetology program there, and we even included on as part of the program, on this back side, you'll see those parking spots down at the bottom right. That's for when you're dropping off your dog for your pet, your veterinary grooming, or if you're coming in for, I think if you're coming in for haircuts, then you come in that way too. Not haircuts, you know what I mean. Sorry, beautician, if you're getting your hair done.
Right. Pretty cool.
So, yeah, it's going to be a nice addition. Also, on that same team, this contractor is also working on the South Intensive move over to South Tech and the portables. Another rabbit that they pulled out of their hat. They did a nice job. This project is basically done and ready. There's a lot of little last minute things because we were kind of scrambling to put the whole package together as to how South Intensive was going to move in, how they're going to operate their classrooms. There's lots of little tweaks and adjustments that we're making. But with every adjustment that we make, the contractor rolls with us and we've gotten it ready so that the campus will be ready for students when they come back. So again, nice job by the contractor on both of these projects together. Next one, Adult Education Center. You'll notice down here the project, the WUD holdup on the issuance of the water meter. I did get a note from Glenn just now that said they released the water meter for adult ed today. So it is now going to be ready to turn on and start up. So this is it's a beautiful facility now. I mentioned earlier in my comments about the size of the parking lot. It's a whole lot bigger than the existing parking lot that's out at the old campus. Good functional use.
Has Palm Tran already started to redirect the route that we had asked about to go to this school?
They're working with adult ed. They're basically waiting for adult ed to say, okay, we're ready to start operating classes out of here, and they will immediately switch over.
Oh, good.
So that's something that Glenn and the adult ed administration have already worked out with Palm Tran. Palm Tran said, no problem. It's something that they can implement right away.
Good.
Just want to reinforce the bravo on getting this thing up and going. It's this is a part of the population that really doesn't have anyone speaking for them, and you folks have done a great job on this.
Thank you.
This one, Dave, needs the communications department to really blast the media about, because this is not just opening another elementary school. This, as Michael said, is opening a brand new facility with adequate parking that's safe to get to for the population that is underserved and who wants to improve themselves.
This is
ironically,
this is the door that opens up the so-called American dream.
Yes.
It's not for the students that are there, it's so that they're there for their kids.
I couldn't agree more. And David, you beat me to the punch by about a minute and a half, because you'll notice that on our agenda, I will go to the 10 video that is posted on our agenda for the adult ed. So let me zip through these. Here's some of the photos, a couple of pretty photos of the inside. Washington Elementary, we just got started. As you can see, we've got some storm drainage going in, the structural work for buildings 1 and 3. We've so it's well on its way, because again, this is another one where we're trying to push this thing out. White's is going to get this thing done so that we're open next August. Kids are moving back over from Lincoln, going to move back into this new school, modernized school. This is also one of the. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
That looks like blue styrofoam insulation board under the slab.
I think it's. I think it's just cover. I think it's covered.
It's a colored visqueen.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking.
I did the same thing.
Insulation under the slab in South Florida. Okay.
I did the same thing. I had to zoom in on the pictures because I couldn't believe it myself when I saw it. You're right.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
Okay. Addison Meisner, also another one in the same vein as adult ed. As in Washington. We are early on in the construction phase. Okay, we're early on in the construction phase. We've done all the demo and we've done a lot of the footings. And with the possible of last month's hurricane, the potential of last month's hurricane, we kind of slowed this down a smidge, or just pulled it back so that we didn't have any flying debris on these two sites, because we know that big open sites are bad for the neighborhood. So we took extra precautions on these sites. Okay, there's a couple of photos of us pouring the slabs, the footers. Old DDI Eisenhower. This is the project that every month I say to you, I bust Glenn on and say, instead of being at 95%, we're at 96.5%. Now we're at 97.2%. We're basically there. We're there at the finish line. We're finishing up some of the last couple of little things, but the facility is in good shape and in great readiness for use. This is the campus that's next to the new DDI Eisenhower School. You can see the fences going up there. As I mentioned, 97.2% done.
We have a cheeky hut there?
Yes.
What purpose is that used for?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I'd have to ask Glenn if he knew the details, because this was developed years ago.
Okay, interesting.
But I'll get back to you. I'll let Glenn give you some response on that.
Okay.
Jupiter High School, real quick. We're very far along. A lot of the work is all the units are in place, and I think we had mentioned that we were trying to get about 8 or so of them in operation so that they're ready for the start of school, and they will be. They will be in operation. And in addition to that, we also did that parking expansion. And in a matter of a handful of weeks, and I literally watch this every day, in a matter of a handful of weeks, they cleared the area, put all the infrastructure in, and there's your parking lot. The lights are in, that top left photo. And the other 2 photos are obviously the bank of all the modular classrooms. You can see the ones that are on the white tops are the ones that are much closer to being ready to go. There are 3 little ones on the bottom. We stuck those in between classroom buildings to meet the number. We needed 26. So very impressed with the effort that this one's Hatcher Construction. They're one of our small business companies that have worked their way up. It's one of the ones that I'm kind of proud of, is that they've worked up as a mentor with some of the other contractors, the bigger contractors, and now they're one of our CM contractors. They won this job, this portable job, and they're doing a great job on it. So super psyched about that.
I got to add, David, we have a good batch of contractors lately. I mean, we don't have any problem child out there that, we've gone through over the years, but for right now, for what's getting built, I mean, these guys are knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, I would agree. There's sometimes a challenge for me to work with on, pricing and stuff. So I don't want to give them all a ton, huge pats on the back. I want them to know we need, they need to come to the table and sharpen the pencil sometimes too. So, but yes, they are. By and large, you're absolutely right. Virtually all of them have been very, very strong companies. We've been really fortunate. We haven't had any collapses where somebody wasn't successful. So,
can you put down on follow-up for some meeting from now an update on whatever happened to the Environmental Academy here? It was so controversial for putting up a wall with a mural on the thing and redeveloping the whole retention pond into an environmental study area. We kind of never got a follow-up, except that the nonprofit was having some money issues, and so that was the last I heard.
Okay.
I don't know if it ever got done.
Oh, it absolutely did, and it's been in operation. As a matter of fact, I've seen some photos that the school puts out as part of their advertisement for the program. Yeah, that the kids are out in the water in hip boots, which I'm not sure they should be, but nonetheless, they're out actually experiencing the wetlands firsthand.
Okay, that's enough follow-up. I don't need anything more. That's good.
Okay. And then again, just to finish off, we've got a lot of active minor projects that we're in the middle of. So while it doesn't seem like a lot, you don't actually hear a lot of those little ones, but there are a ton of them going on out there. And the only people who care about those ones are usually the principals. Those are the ones who are at school that they were concerned about getting that little piece done. So again, kudos to my minor projects group. That's they're really knocking out a lot of the work. And again, same thing on security. Security is moving along quite quickly, and in fact, we're going to even upgrade. We're going to add a couple more guys to our team to work on security projects and bang out the remaining ones. So with that, if I may, that's the end of. Let's see if I can get to this. That's the end of my presentation, but I understand we have a video to show, and I'm hoping that this works. Is no one getting? No, of course, no one's going to get the audio. Oh, I know why. Let me try this again. Now, anyway, this is a video that 10 has put together, and again, the link is in there. I apologize. I've got it on the wrong computer. This one has to be muted, so of course that's why you're not hearing the audio. Please feel free to go on our CORC agenda and click on this yourself, and Fred Barch, the Director of Adult Ed, walks you through a lot of the work that went on this site. That's the old campus. And this is some of the new work.
Old campus never looked so good.
So 10 does a really good job. That's their big motto, is get a career in a year. So again, I apologize for my technical difficulties, but if you're interested, please tune into the board docs and play the audio of that video. Something we're very proud of. Okay, let's see. I guess the next one is follow-up. David, is that?
Yeah, we're doing follow-up. Anyone with questions on follow-up? There's a one-pager back from Jim, so I'm seeing nothing. And capital plan, we're going to postpone because Leanne was kind of buried with some other things. So we will have that next month if she's available.
Thank you very much.
Before we get to minutes, anything by anybody else that needs to be discussed or they want to discuss?
Yeah, one question, Dave. Do you have a count of the CORC members at the meeting?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say that again, Lou?
Lou wants a count of the members in attendance.
CORC members.
Okay. If you'll afford me the opportunity, I'm going to work with Susan after. We're going to make sure we attribute everyone. Unless you want to make a roll call now.
No. Susan, if you could just email Lou after the meeting and tell him how many members were in attendance.
Yes, sir. Well, I have recorded now 10.
Okay. Lou, you got that number? 10.
Yeah, I had 10 too. Thanks for confirming it.
Okay.
David?
Good. Yes. Frank.
For the next meeting, I was a little, I don't know, bothered or tickled or whatever by the $33,000 to clean the chilled water pipes and do related work at Carver that showed up in the submittals that we had to approve today. And I think we've put a lot of emphasis on construction, but very little on maintenance, which we used to get some fairly good reports back a ways and haven't had anything in the last couple of years. I'd like to have somebody come in and talk about something like the chilled water pipe cleaning process, how they award a contract for the annual cleaning, why they're getting that much sand and dirt into the system that requires that kind of expense. I'd like to start looking at some of those things.
Well, I think first of all, we'd have to look at our CORC purview to make sure that we're supposed to be also looking at maintenance expenses. But I think what is key for me is that when a maintenance expense then becomes a capital expense, then it does become a CORC item. And if maintenance is not being done enough to the point on, let's say, chilled water piping, that it then does become a capital, well, then it does become something that CORC should be commenting about to make sure that maintenance is doing the necessary work so it doesn't become a capital expense. So in a roundabout way, I think you're right that we should know some feedback from maintenance as to, okay, here's what their procedure is, and here's how often they check the pipes to avoid every school having a chiller pipe issue to the point we're going to get a $33,000 bill that has to go through capital to take care of chiller pipes. So, Dave, I think that you can come back with is...
Well, I was going to say, I if I may, on this particular one, I didn't mention to Mr. Simon that we do, regarding maintenance, that's a maintenance issue. I can advise you what maintenance's program is. They actually have a vendor who goes through all the schools annually, at least annually. But and as you can imagine, some of these they get a cleaning, and that's good. Where this particular issue comes in, every contractor should have had an expectation of cleaning the chilled water lines when they turn them off. It was an oversight on this particular contractor at Carver. When you turn chiller lines off during construction, or even when you clean them, you have debris that breaks away. This is very much a capital item that should have been included in the contract. That's as simple as this is. It's on every other project, and if you anticipate, well, maybe they do or maybe they don't, that's not the issue here, folks. This issue was this contractor didn't include cleaning and then came to us afterwards and said, oh, we didn't know we were going to have to clean. Well, that's, we made it clear to them. How are you possibly going to do that? Every other contractor knows they need to have a cleaning process on the chilled water lines. If you've turned them off, you've drained them as part of our construction project. Anything could happen. Any debris could get in there.
It sounds like that needs to become part of our standard spec, that it's not just something that the contractor should know about, but it's something that holds their feet to the fire in our specs to state anytime those chiller lines are not flowing and you are responsible for that not happening, then you will do A, B, C, D, and E as part of your job cost.
That's a great recommendation. We will take that and I'll work with Tom to get it in the master spec, because that's all this was. This was a contractor who just didn't include it and should have. And I ask every other contractor I work with, have you ever worked with a chilled water system where you didn't flush the lines before you started it up because you were afraid who knows what happened inside of it? Old chiller lines, they get cleaned every year, and yet there's always going to be a buildup. And when you stop it or when you put a rush of water through, you're going to have debris come through. You need to clean it before you start it back up. This was just an oversight on this one whether it was our team missing that the contractor didn't include it, the contractors, in my opinion, is totally at fault, needed to get it done. So it doesn't change the fact that we needed to have that chilled water line cleaned before we put it back into service.
I think it's very much the same as we get boil water orders from time to time when the public water system is shut down and they're concerned about contaminants getting back into the lines that are no longer under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we feel that non-use over a period of time creates a problem, I'm sure the use is way down right now with the COVID, and maybe they need a program when they start up again in full use to look at this a little more thoroughly, and that's the kind of thing we could talk about at CORC.
Yeah, I think that's incorrect, Frank. All the schools are still air conditioned. We have
Very much so.
ACs down.
Yeah, but the load level is should be a lot less.
Yeah,
The water lines are still getting water through them.
they're still getting water and they're still under pressure, which means that they're going to keep anything outside from getting inside.
Are these metal pipes or are they plastic?
No, they're metal.
Are they doing chemical treatment?
Dave,
The way you treat boiler room piping?
I don't know. I don't know that answer.
Maybe for the meeting, I'd be interested.
Again, this is that's a maintenance issue. The contractor needs to know what the contractor needs to know about the system, and what the evident point that I take away from this, especially, is it shouldn't be a negotiation whether they consider to include, treatment of the pipes, cleaning of the pipes before activation. No, it's got to be in there every time. And
David said, if there's things that should be done to protect those pipes so that they don't become an expense eventually under capital, then that I think is something CORC should be looking at.
my guess is, Frank, that that's already being taken care of, or we would have gotten over the years a lot more change order requests and capital requests to have to replace chiller pipes that were not maintained properly. So I don't really want to get into maintenance as part of view, because I think if we look at the purview of the CORC policy, we're not really maintenance. We're only maintenance when it becomes capital. And I think this is a one-off problem. I don't think this is a chronic problem.
correct.
Dave, if you can find out, there's a one-page document for maintenance that talks about what their policy is for maintaining chiller pipes, then just have that included in the next CORC package. So at least we'll see that.
I'll look into it.
But I don't think personally that we need a full presentation for maintenance of what they do.
I just remember, David, out of 20 years I've been with CORC, the first 16 or so, we used to get maintenance reports as part of what we looked at.
That's true. I remember Martin Metz days, and he used to be at every one of the meetings, and he was in charge of maintenance, and he would give us a report. So let's just take it a step at a time and see if maintenance already has something, which I'm sure they do, in terms of how the pipes have to be maintained and inspected, and see if that's something that just resolves our concerns.
Okay. All right, but as you said, I want to stay within our lanes. Guardrails or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
We're capital. We're construction, so I want to make sure we stay there.
Well, I'm just questioning the CORC policy, which I don't have in front of me right now. But if CORC is supposed to be looking at maintenance, then I think it is a valid question. But it doesn't seem like maintenance caused this issue.
Correct.
Because if maintenance was inspecting this until they got shut down, then there has not been an issue. It was clearly the issue became when they shut them down.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't have known about this issue at all had the contractor not included cleaning the pipes in his GMP. It was just part of the project. It never would have been a change order. You wouldn't have even known that this school or any other school had any issues or didn't have issues with their chilled water piping.
Right.
Not under pressure.
Okay. Anyone with issues on minutes? All right, I'm not seeing any. And anything else we haven't talked about for staff to bring back to us next time?
David,
Yes, Susan.
the items that I've got for follow-up for next month is how the schools are handling the building code services inspection list items, the Jupiter High School environmental issues.
Yeah, you can take that one off of there. Dave gave me the answer I was looking for on the Environmental Academy.
Okay, and what about the last one we were just talking about, like a one-sheet follow-up on how maintenance handles the chiller maintenance?
Yeah, I think if that exists, I'm not asking for maintenance.
Right. Okay, let me look into the system first before we get to one thing or another.
Just going to investigate if maintenance already has a plan in place for what they send their employees out to do inspections on the chiller pipe.
All right, and the last item is the capital plan overview that we're moving from this month to next month.
Yep. Anyone with anything else? Anything? Okay, everyone. Thank you for your virtual attendance. Yeah,
Do you need to approve the meeting minutes?
No.
Yes,
There were
they
no-
did.
Oh, okay.
Nope. Thank you, everyone, for your virtual attendance, and we are hereby adjourned. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, you guys.